Week 5 saw a lot of action in the NFL and quite a few unexpected outcomes in some games. So, of course, at the Sports Ball Network, we are going to break it all down, starting with a very interesting Thursday night football game. Here's our Week 5 NFL breakdown. Kicking things off Thursday night, the Chicago Bears shocked the NFL world and managed to get their first win of the season, steamrolling the Washington Commanders in Washington 40-20. This game was all about wide receiver DJ Moore, who was left absolutely open all night long as he caught 8 of 10 targets for 230 yards and 3 touchdowns. Quarterback Justin Fields improved once again from his shocking performance last week and threw for 282 yards and 4 touchdowns. Really, though, I think this game says more about Washington than it does about Chicago. Washington's defense in particular is absolutely atrocious. And the fact that they did not cover DJ Moore at all speaks volumes. Justin Fields only threw to 3 players on the Bears: Cole Kmet, DJ Moore, and Robert Tonyan. And the bulk of Justin Fields' throws went to DJ Moore. If Washington had covered DJ Moore even a little bit, this game could have been very different, especially going into the fourth quarter where quarterback Sam Howell admirably led somewhat of a comeback and had brought the game to within 10 before the defense once again completely collapsed. I wouldn't be too surprised if Washington ends up firing Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio at the end of the season, but performances like this could end up expediting this timeline. The Jacksonville Jaguars and Buffalo Bills kicked off things early Sunday morning in London, and it was the Jaguars who came out on top 25-20. Jacksonville always seems to really get going during these London games and really galvanize their season after they play there, especially during the Doug Peterson era, where after they played in London last year, they ended up going on that really big run and won the division. This year, it seems like more of the same, as Jacksonville has now gone 2-0 across the pond and has really started to pick up steam here. Buffalo, meanwhile, had a so-so game on offense. They started off really slow, and Josh Allen only really got going late in this game. But by the end, Josh Allen was back to doing his usual thing and very nearly willed the Bills back into this game and won it for them. I'm not too worried about Buffalo's future. These London games are always weird, and it's always hard for a team to travel in Europe and then subsequently play at their best. But they did end up losing this game, and that could have pretty dire consequences in an absolutely stacked AFC. Time will only tell on that one, but still, never great to lose. Moving on to the 1 p.m. slate of games, the Atlanta Falcons ended up defeating the Houston Texans 21-19. Much like with the Buffalo Bills, the Houston Texan offense was pretty slow for most of the first half and didn't really get going until late into the game. Quarterback CJ Stroud, though, still continued to have strong play, and he threw for 249 yards and a touchdown. CJ Stroud now also holds the record for most pass attempts without an interception. And really, he looks to be a really, really good player so far through these first 5 weeks. Atlanta, though, ended up playing tough all game long, and it was quarterback Desmond Ridder who, after a terrible showing in London, really bounced back in a big way with 329 yards and a touchdown to go along with a 2-point conversion in the air and a rushing touchdown on the ground. The Falcons were mostly able to impose their will on Houston all game long, running for 31 times, but things did look a little bit dicey towards the end. Still, Desmond Ridder was able to lead the team down the field for the game-winning field goal, and overall, after the past couple of weeks that the Atlanta Falcons have had, it has to be encouraging to get this win. Fun fact, did you know Desmond Ridder is undefeated at home, both in the NFL and at the college level? And with an upcoming game with the Washington Commanders, I would expect that level of success to continue for Atlanta. The Detroit Lions bullied the Carolina Panthers all game long this past Sunday, winning in a dominant fashion 42-24. Rookie quarterback Bryce Young once again looked really uncomfortable, and he was pretty much terrorized all game long by the Detroit Lions defense, who picked him off twice and really pressured him in the backfield all game long. Carolina really can't get anything going both on offense and on defense. Their defense can't really generate much pressure, and they can't really cover anybody properly. And their offense can't get anything going on the ground and is currently relying on a rookie quarterback who is struggling because teams know that they are just going to pass the entire time. Carolina is probably one of the worst teams, if not the worst team in the league. And considering the fact that they do not have their first round pick next year, I think things are going to get much better anytime soon. For Detroit, this game was business as usual. They moved to 4-1. They clearly look like one of the best teams in the NFC. And quarterback Jared Goff threw for 3 touchdowns, ran for another. Offense was humming. Defense looked great. Not much really here to nitpick. In Jonathan Taylor's first game back since his return from the PUP, the Indianapolis Colts ended up beating divisional rival Tennessee 23-16. But it wasn't Jonathan Taylor who was the main headline of this game, as Zach Moss stole the show with 165 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns. I expected Jonathan Taylor to start slow here, and I think the team's going to work him more into the rotation. But it is nice to see for his long-term health that they have a second guy that they can also rely on here in this backfield. What's not nice to see, though, is rookie quarterback Anthony Richardson getting injured once again. And he's now set to miss multiple weeks with an AC injury in his shoulder. With Gardner Minshew now set to start quarterback for this team, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Colts struggle a little bit over the next coming weeks. The Tennessee Titans, meanwhile, they didn't look particularly terrible, but at the same time, they didn't look particularly great. Quarterback Ryan Tannehill threw for 264 yards and an interception, and Derrick Henry on the ground sort of struggled, getting only 43 yards on 13 carries. It is nice to see, though, that DeAndre Hopkins has started to find his stride as he hauled in 8 receptions for 140 yards and overall looked pretty comfortable in this offense. Still at 2-3, this week is one that Titans fans are going to want to forget and move on quickly from. Right now, this team is 2-3, and while they still have a chance to compete for the division, as no one team in the AFC South has looked particularly great so far this year, that chance is slipping quickly. And at some point, if things do get out of hand, one has to wonder if the team starts to look towards the future. The New York Giants, unsurprisingly, lost another football game, this time to the Miami Dolphins, 31-16. This nightmare season for the Giants and their fans continues to march on, as now quarterback Daniel Jones had suffered a neck injury, which could leave him sidelined for several weeks. The New York Giants at this point in the season are easily one of the worst teams in the NFL, and as an Eagles fan, seeing them continually implode each and every week brings me immense amounts of joy. For Giants fans, though, one has to wonder what the team does here. Assuming they get a top 5 pick, they may very well take a quarterback and try to rebuild for the future. Then again, they are still hamstrung by this Daniel Jones contract for another year. The defense doesn't look great. The offensive line is not great. And the pass catching and offensive weapons outside of Saquon Barkley are a bottom half unit in the league. Things do not look very good here in the Big Apple. And I think outside of a major rebuild over the next couple of years, they won't be getting much better. As for the Dolphins, this game put them back into first place in the AFC East, given that the Bills lost earlier in London. And overall, they look to still be a really strong team. While it is concerning that star rookie running back Devin Achane is set to likely miss multiple weeks with a knee injury, The team is getting back Jeff Wilson off of IR, and they still have Raheem Mostert in the backfield. So the rushing attack should be fine for Miami. And yes, it is also concerning to see Tua throw 2 interceptions against the Giants. But with a game against the hapless Carolina Panthers on deck for week 6, I don't expect his struggles to continue for much longer. Last week, the New England Patriots suffered the worst loss in the Bill Belichick era, falling to the Dallas Cowboys 38-3. This week, the New England Patriots suffered the second worst loss in the Bill Belichick era, falling to the New Orleans Saints 34-0. You heard that right. The Patriots did not score a single point on offense in this game. And real quick, I want to talk about the Saints here because this breakdown is going to be mostly about the Patriots and specifically about Bill Belichick. The Saints overall looked pretty comfortable in this game. Quarterback Derek Carr was efficient. He threw for 183 yards and 2 touchdowns on 18 out of 26 pass attempts. Alvin Kamara ran the ball 22 times for 80 yards and a touchdown. And really, the New Orleans defense was absolutely dominant all game long. They didn't allow a single point. They had 2 interceptions against the Patriots. They had 2 sacks. They really were stopping anything that New England threw at them. Now, I want to take a second to talk about the Patriots here, and more specifically about head coach Bill Belichick, because things do not look good right now. I've seen a lot of online discourse and a lot of people in the media talking about how the Patriots need to fire Bill Belichick, that he's the problem, and so on and so forth. To which I say, stop it. Yes, Bill Belichick has made some strange decisions since Tom Brady retired. Bringing in Matt Patricia as an offensive coordinator was an objectively bad move. Drafting Cole Strange, also not a great move at the time and not very good in hindsight either. However, Bill Belichick has also brought in guys through the draft like Ramondre Stevenson and Christian Gonzalez, who most people would say are pretty good at football. And again, Bill Belichick had some strange free agent signings. Juju is one that comes to mind, Mike Gesicki another. But those players were pretty good when the Patriots signed them, and there's really no way that Bill Belichick could have predicted that their career arc would have gone the way it has so far in New England. So to say Bill Belichick has suddenly become a terrible player evaluator and he cannot do his job properly anymore is just wrong. Like all NFL front offices, the Patriots are going to hit on some players and they're going to miss on some players. That's just how things are. And while we're talking about the Patriots staff and their front office, let's not forget that for the past 20 plus years, the Patriots have had their players, front office, scouts, and other staff absolutely plundered by NFL teams because of Bill Belichick's and Tom Brady's success. So again, after all that time and after losing all of that talent, it's only natural that the Patriots are starting to struggle now. And really, even despite losing all that talent, Bill Belichick and his Patriots have been competitive, aside from, of course, these past 2 games, specifically on the defensive side. Bill Belichick's defenses since Tom Brady has left have ranked 7th, 2nd, and 11th in the league the past 3 years. The problem for the Patriots, and really this has been a problem for them since they drafted Mac Jones, has been that the offense cannot do a single positive thing on the football field. And the Patriots' offensive struggles reflect more on the fact that they lost Josh McDaniels 2 years ago and have since had to replace him with Matt Patricia and the ghost of Bill O'Brien. Also reflects poorly on quarterback Mac Jones, who has consistently shown this year that he is not an NFL caliber starter at this point in his career. What the Patriots need to do is, instead of firing the single greatest coach of all time, is to have a reset on the offensive side of the football. The Patriots need to bring in some help for Bill Belichick on that side of the ball, specifically at offensive coordinator, and move on from quarterback Mac Jones. They are likely to have a top 5 pick this year, and they should probably use it on one of the top quarterback prospects, and a very good draft. And if for whatever reason they do decide to fire Bill Belichick after this season, which again, I don't understand why they would, you better believe that a team like the Chargers would immediately fire their head coach and give Bill a blank check to do whatever he wants with their roster. Bill Belichick is still a great head coach. He's still decent at evaluating NFL talent. And at this point, he has the right to leave the league on his own terms. And if for whatever reason the Patriots decide not to let Bill Belichick see this rebuild through or to retire on his own terms, then I guarantee some other team is going to pick him up and let him do whatever the heck he wants. Because he's Bill Belichick and he's the greatest head coach of all time. End of discussion. The Steelers defense took over against the Baltimore Ravens at home, beating them 17-10. Once again, the Steelers offense under Matt Canada and Kenny Pickett really did not look good. George Pickens did go off for 130 yards and a touchdown, but really that was it. Steelers really couldn't get anything going all day, and it was really only because of the defense giving them great field position throughout the game. They were really able to get anything. Well, Steelers won, and they moved to 3-2 in the season. And something tells me that this team is going to be competitive all year long under Coach Mike Tomlin. Meanwhile, for Baltimore, the offense struggled as Lamar completed only 22 of his 38 pass attempts for 236 yards and an interception. Running back Justice Hill was able to score on 7 carries for 32 yards on the ground. But story of this game for the Baltimore Ravens and really their offense was the missed opportunities and drops. All game long, it seemed like Lamar and his wide receivers were not in sync. And there were a number of plays that really could have been broken wide open if there was just a little bit clear communication on that side of the ball. I do expect Baltimore to bounce back, but this type of performance does show that they are mortal and that they can be caught up to and beaten for the race for the top of the AFC North. The Cincinnati Bengals came back in a big way this week after a concerning loss and dominated the Arizona Cardinals 34-20. This was the game that we were waiting for quarterback Joe Burrow. He threw for 317 yards and 3 touchdowns. He did also throw an interception, but overall, he looked sharp all day. Whatever Jamar Chase said in his press conference last week also seemed to light a fire under this team, and particularly under him as he went for 192 yards and 3 touchdowns on 15 receptions. Meanwhile, for the Cardinals, they continue to play tough, but they showed that there is a clear talent discrepancy between this team and some of the other ones in the league. Quarterback Joshua Dobbs completed under 50% of his passes and threw 2 interceptions. And running back James Conner left the game with an injury that has placed him on IR. With Kyler out, James Conner out, and the passing offense seemingly struggling right now, things could be taking a turn for the worse for Arizona if things don't shape up fast. Kicking off our afternoon games, the New York Jets got a bit of revenge on Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos, who thrashed their offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett earlier this season in a 31-21 win that really did not seem as close as the score indicated. New York pretty much dominated this game all afternoon. Breece Hall went off for 177 yards and a touchdown on the ground. And there was not really any doubt who was going to win this game in my mind. Denver's defense is truly atrocious, and the fact that Vance Joseph has not been fired right now is shocking. Sean Payton and the offense also have not really been able to get much going, and despite that fact that Russell Wilson has played relatively efficient football, one has to wonder if John Payton's already on the hot seat here. He came in with big ambitions to turn this thing around in Denver, and after 5 weeks, the Broncos are sitting at 1-4 with by far the worst defense in the league and one of the worst defenses I've ever seen, and an offense that seemingly can't get things right. It's going to be interesting to watch what happens in Denver over the next few weeks and really what happens in the offseason should they continue to stumble their way and struggle for the rest of the year. I can't believe it. The Eagles didn't play down to their competition. They won a game in comfortable fashion this week. I'm in shock. I'm shaking with happiness right now as we're recording this. Eagles won 23-14. Jalen looked great. He threw for 300 yards and a touchdown. He ran for 72 yards and another score. The brotherly shove is unstoppable and should not be banned because no other team can effectively run it. And the Philadelphia Eagles are 5-0. Rams played decent this game. Quarterback Matthew Stafford was efficient. He threw for 222 yards and 2 touchdowns on 21 out of 37 attempts. Kyron Williams wasn't able to get a ton going on the ground, but Galen Carter and Jordan Davis are the best 1-2 defensive tackle punch in the league, so that was expected. Still, LA played tough, and it was good to see Cooper Kupp return and get back to form. He had 8 receptions for 118 yards. Eagles look great. I'm pretty happy that we did not play down to the competition here, and feeling pretty good right here in Philly. Kansas City Chiefs survived a late game surge from the Minnesota Vikings and took their game 27-20. The story out of this one is that Travis Kelce had an ankle sprain and left the game for a little bit, but he was able to come back and he did end up scoring on the subsequent play. Then he returned. Going to be interesting to see if he's out on Thursday against the Denver Broncos, though I doubt it will make much of a difference. Patrick Mahomes looked really good again, as he always does, because he's Patrick Mahomes. And for the most part, the Kansas City Chiefs took care of business like they should have. Meanwhile, for the Minnesota Vikings, things could not be getting any worse. Justin Jefferson is on IR. The team is 1-4, and the season is quickly slipping away. One has to wonder at this point if the Vikings are considering making a move and trading Kirk Cousins to a team that's a quarterback away from being a contender. It's going to be very interesting to see over the next couple of weeks if Minnesota ends up deciding to blow everything up and hit the rebuild button, or if they try to bring in a couple other pieces and try to right the ship here. Either way, it's going to be a tough call for the Minnesota front office, and one that is likely going to define their tenure. You would think that these blowout losses by the Dallas Cowboys wouldn't surprise me anymore, but with each one, I find myself continually shocked by how bad this team can be when it matters most. Dallas ended up losing to the San Francisco 49ers 42-10. Quarterback Dak Prescott threw 3 interceptions, and he was benched by the fourth quarter. I really don't know where to unpack this one if you're the Dallas Cowboys. Your defense looked terrible, and that was really supposed to be the strength of your team. Dak does not look good, and he really has not looked good all year. And things just feel off for this team. In a weak NFC, Dallas is likely going to make the playoffs as a wild card at least, but I can't really see them beating teams like Detroit, San Francisco, or Philadelphia. And despite the fact that Dallas always makes flashy moves every year and they always look really good for a few weeks, I don't think that's going to change for a while. At least not as long as Coach Mike McCarthy's the one running the show. As for the San Francisco 49ers, there's really not much here to say. They look like the best team in the NFC. Quarterback Brock Purdy is absolutely legit. He threw for 252 yards and 4 touchdowns. He guided the offense and really made things hum all night long. Yeah, San Francisco is really, really, really good. And if you are in the NFC, I'd be very, very scared of facing them come playoff time. Monday Night Football was a bit of a snoozer. The Las Vegas Raiders did end up beating the Green Bay Packers 17-13. Neither of these teams looked particularly great. It was just one of those games where neither team wanted to win, but it ended up that the Raiders were able to pull it out in this one. Josh Jacobs ran for 69 yards on 20 carries and a touchdown. He also hauled in 5 receptions for 20 yards. And although he has looked decent from time to time, so far this season has been a pretty big disappointment for him. The Vegas Raiders picked off Jordan Love 3 times, and the defense at least looked like it has been improving over the past couple of weeks. So there's that. Still, I don't expect the Raiders to do much in a loaded AFC, and they really don't look like a very good team overall. Really, the only reason they won this game is because the Packers looked really, really bad. Jordan Love, like I said, threw 3 interceptions. He barely completed over 50% of his passes. A.J. Dillon did run for 76 yards, but that was also on 20 carries. He did get a touchdown on the ground. Really, Green Bay couldn't get anything going all night. Christian Watson looked okay. He had 91 receiving yards on 3 catches, but he had 7 targets. Rookie tight end Luke Musgrave also looks good. He had 6 receptions for 34 yards. Green Bay defense did its part. It blocked the field goal. It had 4 sacks, had an interception, but it wasn't enough. And for the past couple of weeks, it's been shown that although Jordan Love could be a pretty decent starter in the league, he's not going to be Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, which is going to ultimately cap the upside of this team. Unless, of course, he really starts to turn things on after the bye. Thanks again for watching the Sports Ball Network's weekly NFL breakdowns. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed what you saw. And we'll catch you next week in week 6.